We'll see. You're right, that's a lot of fun.
By the way, it's good that that's what you're deciding on now. It's like, look, I got 3 or 4 good options, and what's the best thing that you got?
Yes, exactly. Oh, so what did she think about it?
She's like, I mean, she's wrapping up this year. She did a semester.
That's right.
And my son is a helper. I think she switched from Temple to Micah.
Yeah, he's not affiliated. It was just more like a, you know, they'll cut your tools. We know you're in more.
Do you want to do it?
Not yet.
All right, good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. This is the Building Advisory Committee. We'll do a roll call, but before I do that, I just want to introduce Andrew Sullivan. Andrew is one of our newest community members as a member to the Advisory Committee, so thank you for offering your expertise, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you can do roll call.
You have 7
Well, we got,
people.
all right, so you're good. Public comment, the only one that signed up is Mary.
Hello, Mary Warbeck, 25 North Road. We all know that schools are the gems of a town. They show how much the citizens care about the future. When I go home to Pennsylvania, my kids laugh as we enter my hometown and yell, "Not again, Mom," when I point out where I went to school. There's huge pride that we all feel. Those who came before us made sure that they provided what at the time was considered to represent the best knowledge of not only teaching, but also of building methods. The quality of the staff and the structure draw people to settle in a town. Maintaining good teachers and staff assure that those kids who decide to stay in town are well educated and prepared to lead and make good decisions when it's their turn. Although my years in North Kingstown number close to 30, my own kids barely wet their feet in our schools before we moved to Florida. But I have no problem in paying taxes or supporting a bond for schools and education. So when 3 or 4 years ago we interviewed several architectural firms for a new school, I sat in and was thrilled when Perkins Eastman was chosen. They have had a tremendous reputation for building schools powered by renewable energy, and their name was mentioned even on federal sites, extolling their highly efficient and net zero buildings. What I'm saying is that just as teachers and teaching methods must be excellent, so must our facilities. A new school must last, and that means be relevant for at least 50 years. I would not want to be told by a former student 50 years from now driving past his school, that we added a building that at the time of construction relied on energy systems that were already in question. Due to whatever reasons, advertised geothermal and solar systems are now on an alternates list. I've asked several times and have not received an answer of how we are pursuing other ways to finance the essential renewable energy systems. Have we looked into solar leasing options and power purchase agreements? Are we talking with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank? Tom Skoros, right here in North Kingstown, actually helped write the legislation creating the bank and has offered his help and is waiting for a reply. He unfortunately could not be here tonight to speak. Have we checked with the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, RGGI, for possible financial incentives available through recent allocations for energy efficiency and electrification? Has anyone been tasked with finding a path forward for the net zero option, which was one of the important reasons many supported the bond? I recognize the tremendous hours and days and weeks and months and years that you have devoted to our town, but I and many other citizens really need a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, next item is approval of minutes from October 1st, 25. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes? You weren't
I did
here.
read them.
Read them? But you don't, because you weren't here,
I won't
so
vote on
you won't
them.
vote, but thank you for reviewing them. Okay. Anyone have a motion to approve those minutes?
Oh, make a motion to approve?
Okay, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, that was approved. Okay, I'll next introduce Sam Bradner from Peregrine for our owner's project manager update.
Thank you, Superintendent. And while we're doing introductions, I'd like to introduce Mike DiMatteo. He's a new team member at Peregrine. Mike's going to be focusing on the CIP side of the work that we're going to be doing. He's not replacing Matt, who is now out on paternity leave, but also supporting us. I don't have any news either, so.
Send them our best.
So in front of you and up on the screen, we have our monthly update, so I'll just walk through kind of the highlights. I won't read every line. For our SBA coordination with Rhode Island Department of Education, if you recall, when we submitted back on the 15th of September, we knew that there was going to be a supplemental round of information that had to go in. That went in on October 3rd. That included not only the approval meeting minutes from some of the latter committee and council votes that weren't able to meet to get there in time, as well as the results of the traffic study that we knew was going to be lagging behind. Another item under SBA is that we did receive comments on the Stage 2 on the 20th of October. The team is currently working on final wrapping up responses to those. I would say that those comments were, they were heavily focused on the CIP work. Not surprisingly, because we knew even going into the addenda that they felt fairly comfortable with the status of the Whitford Middle School plan and kind of the progress of where we were. There are a couple budgetary items on that. On the CIP work, Ed and his team and Peregrine have been working through those items. Some require some adjustments to budget to match the RIDE required formatting. So we are working through those. We've been working directly with the district on those and hope to get those, we will get those in by next Monday for that submission deadline.
And what we'll do, Sam, just so the committee knows and the public knows, when we have that, we will put that online on our building advisory site with our documents.
So I won't predict how RIDE is going to weigh in on everything, but I felt like the comments were not unexpected, and we feel like we're going to have a good response for everything that came out on that work. And then the next steps on that are obviously it goes back to RIDE for their additional review, and then if everything is on a path for approval, then that would happen at that mid-December date with the council up at RIDE. Stage 3 updates, so the team is fully immersed now in the Stage 3 process. As you recall, we were not going to put pencils down while we waited for RIDE to kind of go through their review process. So in general, the team continues to kind of work on cross-collaboration on any items that might relate between the CIP work and the new construction. A lot of that is still these ongoing discussions about parity, making sure that especially the work that we're doing at Davisville Middle School can be in alignment with kind of parity issues that for the new construction at Wickford Middle School, and sometimes vice versa, depending on, because there are program elements actually at Davisville that won't necessarily be in the new middle school. So between Ed, Tina, Dave, the team, we've really been working hard just to make sure that we're kind of fleshing all those details out on an ongoing basis. Wickford Middle School, and Tina will touch base on some of these, so we try not to be repetitive, but if you recall at our last meeting, we had a comprehensive update on the site investigation work that was going to be happening out on the property. If folks have driven by, I know the principal sees it every day now, where we have folks doing borings for geotechnical understanding, infiltration understanding, archaeology, as well as environmental. So that work is ongoing. Our goal right now is to be wrapping that up over the next couple weeks, and then hopefully have those reports start to be generated. And those reports will be part of what's submitted to our cost estimator as well. So that information, if it has a cost implication, can inform that estimating process as we go. We continue to have several meetings with our town agency partners. The town manager has been very generous in allowing us to meet with the team members at the town level. That includes meeting with public safety, building code. We've been having a lot of discussions around not only the approval process that we'll have to go through on the land use side of things, but also security, looking at kind of the designation of the existing Whitford Middle School, how that performs when you guys have an emergency event. We had a great call last week with some of the leadership team, just to make sure that we are hopefully on par between the services that are delivered when you have an emergency today, also going forward in the new building. We're going to talk a little bit later on the commissioning agent, but we did receive proposals in. You have a summary in front of you, and we'll talk through that for item number 6 with our overview of that process and the recommendation coming out of that selection process. Construction coordination, if you recall at our last meeting, this body voted to approve going forward with procurement of a construction management approach for the delivery of the building. We issued an RFP to the market on October 22nd. We had a pre-proposal meeting last week. It was attended by 6 firms in the marketplace. A lot of folks that we would have expected to be at the table. Relatively brief. We didn't walk the building. We allowed them to kind of look at the site and understand it. It was not a mandatory meeting, so there may be other folks that are going to be interested in applying for this. There was a question round that concluded last week as well. We have issued responses out to the market through BidNet, working with Jules on that process. And now we're basically waiting for those responses that are going to come in on the 12th. We will be working on assembling a review committee, and then I know the superintendent is going to be focusing on that, so that when those proposals come in, we will have an internal review team. The OPM team, while we will not be a formal reviewer, we will certainly support that process. We will help go through the evaluation and the criteria analysis, and then ultimately likely recommending for a short list where we would have folks come in for interviews. So we're currently trying to track that out with the goal that when we come back before this group at the beginning of December, there's a recommendation coming from that internal review committee, and then that would then go before school committee and town council, hopefully by the middle of December. I know we're still working through kind of navigating where those dates are for the town council hearing versus the school committee.
We settled that.
You did? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
so we're going to do a special school committee meeting to approve to approve an award for the construction manager at risk on the Monday, December 15th, prior to the joint meeting with the town council. And that we can have the approval, and then they have their meeting that night, and then we're still gonna have our regular school committee meeting on that Tuesday.
Okay, great. And that timing is gonna work perfectly. We are, and Tina will talk a little bit about where they are in process. Plans will have already gone to the AE's cost estimating consultant. So we're gonna have to navigate how we're not gonna have the benefit of a full schematic estimate based on the timing to get them approved. But what we'd like to do is if there's the approval that week and ideally a pre-construction agreement that we actually advance at the same time, that team can then be doing kind of a parallel peer review with the cost estimator as we go through that reconciliation process. So while we won't have a full robust 2 estimates at the SD step, I think we'll still get a lot of benefit from them jumping in and really kind of rolling up their sleeves and understanding and hearing from the cost estimating team, hearing from the design team as we advance into design development, which will happen very quickly after we conclude with the schematic design activities. Another item on construction coordination, and again, we talked about this last month, is the project labor agreement feasibility study. So at the direction of the district, we went out and solicited proposals from 2 firms in the marketplace that do these on a regular basis. We only got 1 back, and that was from Pannone, Lopes, Devereaux, and O'Gara. We have worked with Bill O'Gara on several of these studies with other districts and other public projects. Right now, we're just wrapping up our paperwork to get back over to the district. What we agreed to do is we have a reimbursement allowance in our contract, so we're happy to include them under that reimbursement amount. I believe the amount was $10,000 for that study, which is kind of the going rate that we've seen out there. So once Bill O'Gara and his team are engaged, they think it's about a 6 to 8 week turn, which will fit very well into our kind of bringing the CM on board and kind of making sure that that pricing is part of the evaluation. What we have told the construction management prospective team members in our RFP is that the owner is considering the PLA, so we have not said it is definitive, but at least that they understand that that's a possible variable that they'll have to balance when they're thinking about their response.
Sam, before you go any further from those items, just so that the committee knows with the construction manager at risk for the review of those RFPs that we receive, we're gonna ask a few members from this committee to sit on the review. We have to make sure we don't have a quorum, so it would probably be maybe like 4 or 5 of us that do that, so I will be reaching out for that in the probably by next week with some dates.
Yeah.
And then we just have to make sure that we have that review done in time to submit everything for the town council meeting.
And the next building advisory committee.
And the building,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yes,
so-
so it'll be lined up, so that way we actually have that review at the building
Right.
advisory. And then
And we know this is all happening as holidays and end of year stuff is happening, so we're trying to thread the needle through people's availability, understanding that this will be a little bit of a lift. There's a lot of reading, interviews will take a little bit of time, but we think it's really valuable that at least some committee members are part of that process. Because we don't want you to just be hearing from us on our opinions. Obviously, we work with a lot of these folks in the marketplace, but we want to make sure that kind of that selection committee is really kind of owning ultimately that decision in the process.
Sam, before you go on,
Yeah.
I have a question about the shelter. I do see, we've talked about this before in meetings about how you were gonna be meeting with the town side, and I do see it says there's a follow-up meeting in December. At what point will there be any sort of decision on what their request is for the type of shelter?
Yeah, and the town manager can weigh in on this too. I think our last meeting that was just last week was with the fire chief, your director of EMA, which is your former fire chief. Yep. The town manager, and really it was to get an understanding of, okay, how is it functioning today? And what the team is doing now is they're gonna go back and almost create a matrix and say, okay, this is what we heard from the leadership team, from the agencies, and this is kind of the tiers of approach that we can take. The generator is a huge piece of the solution to this. So how much area do you need to heat? Kind of delivery of food, and you know, how many people can you house in specific areas? So I think once we come back with that matrix, I think that'll be kind of the defining point to say, okay, are we all on the same page? I think the town leadership team was very clear. They did not want to add cost or complexity to the project, but we want to make sure that there's some parity between the level of service that's provided today and the level of service that we'll be providing going forward. So.
Okay.
I would say hopefully we want to have those answers before we go to our cost estimator for this next round. So we want to kind of get through that step and then probably come back maybe in the interim as that estimating is happening to kind of hopefully get down to what we think is the right solution for, you know, that meets the expectations of the town and everybody and the project budget and everything else.
Well, that's what I was driving at. Are we gonna be staying within budget, or is this going to end up being something?
We
that-
had those
that's our goal.
conversations that that's not what would happen, and Chief Catello, Chief Catello, still chief, had said that, you know, they have relationships with other cities and towns nearby. So if there was a need, they would be reaching out with others as well.
In the end, and I think that the superintendent and Sam said it perfectly, in the end, we would like to match what we have now. And of course, but we don't want to add any cost to the project. And so we do have a relationship with South Kingstown, but at the same time, if it's something that it's a major incident, then of course we do need our own shelter here. That may not function as the only shelter, but we do have to designate a shelter. And to designate that shelter, it has certain requirements. And one of the major requirements is the generator. And so what rooms is the generator providing power to? And so, but we're gonna work with the team, and whatever we can do within budget would be appreciated, but we're not looking to add anything to the budget already.
Okay, that's good, thanks.
Yeah, I think this is a very common discussion that we have in communities that we've worked in on, specifically on public school projects. Because typically the building that's coming down is, maybe it doesn't meet a certain designation, but it certainly serves that function, even if it's not considered a classified shelter, which a lot of buildings actually are not. So, I think, you know, our goal is meet the objective and keep us on budget.
Yeah.
Like that's our,
Good goal.
that's our two drivers.
Is there some level of a generator that's planned as a normal course, not necessarily one that reaches the height of or the level of a shelter?
Yeah, so if you recall, the generator at the stage 2 addendum 4 submission
Yeah.
was actually on the alt list.
So no generator.
Well, then, so what we've already been talking about on the team is we need to get it into the base work.
All right.
So to
Just
me,
'cause
that
it's on the-
is,
doesn't mean it's
that
not
is,
there.
Right.
that is
Just
job
put it
one.
back in.
Yeah.
And it would continue to be, even if it wasn't all, it would continue to be designed and brought all the way through the process. And I think that'll be important, you know, what we talked about, the value of the construction manager is when they get involved in this process, we're gonna tell them, hey, look, these 2 or 3 alts, we need them on the right side of the line. And to me, generator should be the first one, and that's just my opinion. Obviously, that's a decision by the leadership and ownership, but, so I think it has to be in there. What the size is, I think that's where we have to kind of value, you know, and it may be that we say, look, base gives you the base level of backup on the generator. And an alt could be, okay, if you wanna upsize it to get to the expectations that we've all been talking about, that might be a way to evaluate as we go through the budgeting process as well.
Thank you.
But alts stay in the project typically all the way to the end. Some you might have to make decisions on earlier, or else they do have to fall off. But the goal is, even if you haven't bought them yet, that they've been fully designed by the architecture team. So you have that kind of variability and decision-making process that you can walk through. We have projects that we're doing right now, we have 10 to 15 items that we're waiting for kind of budget certainty as we conclude the project, so things can kind of come back in. So that's certainly a common process to kind of go through. Capital improvement projects, and again, Ed's gonna give an overview in more detail, but we've been continuing to kind of work on that, programming meetings, analysis of the buildings, and Ed will give us I think a pretty comprehensive update on where we stand with that. Just a quick snapshot on our budgets, and right now, I think we might be slightly off with the information. So next month, you're gonna see these spent to date or incurred to date numbers probably go up significantly, because we're gonna be doing some catch-up invoicing as contracts have been finalized and everything else. But right now, this is kind of a static view of where we are. Obviously, very small amounts have been incurred. It's really only just been the soft cost amounts, and that'll be the pace until we really start to get into next spring as that design work ramps up.
That is, those costs are the combined costs of all the vendors, or just yours?
Nope, that's incurred to date, but we might be a little bit off sync with what you have in your.
Okay, I just want what we have here that we sent out
Yep.
today, so.
So again, I think we need to just make sure that we're shaking out what you guys have on your ledger versus what we have on ours. We know what we've seen in process, but that doesn't mean that you don't have additional invoices that might be sitting there that have either gone through approval processes in previous rounds.
I have a question, not trying to overcomplicate it, but is there a way we could add like an obligated amount, because there's a lot of money that's already tied up in contracts that we're not accounting for here, so it looks like, you know, our spend is low, we're in great shape, but we probably have $7 million obligated at this point or so.
So
Yeah.
what I sent out earlier today, you might not have seen it yet.
I did, I just
That
saw it.
work, yeah, so that is everything that we have up to
That's the one.
today
Yeah.
Roger that,
is in there. And there's an additional invoice tonight that we'll be approving.
sounds great.
And Steve, what you'll see is, we're giving you just a single line
Yeah, I
on here.
figured
The next ones you're gonna
Screen
get
grab.
are gonna be the full budget, and we'll show you encumbered, which is kind of what, if there's a contract signed with AE or with OPM, then that's gonna show as committed. And that'll be, that number will change each time, you know, you add in the commissioning agent, or you add in the CM with their pre-con. and that number will evolve as you kind of go through the steps. So we certainly agree that having that level of detail is important, so you guys kind of have a comprehensive lay of the land.
Thank you.
All right, any questions on the OPM update?
Are we gonna separately talk about commissioning?
Yeah, I figured I'd just address it when you guys get down to 6. Certainly can talk about it
Oh,
now if
that's
you'd
right.
like, or,
Very second, no.
okay. All right, so I'm gonna turn it over to Ed first, and we're gonna walk through the CIP update from the AE team, and then we'll switch over to Tina and Mark on the middle school.
Good evening, everybody. Your next one. Just sort of kind of a treetop of where we were and what we're moving forward with in terms of the CIP. We are developing 3 separate bid packages. One for the high school roof replacement, which is the top priority. The second being the elementary stabilization, which includes the roof replacements, the media centers, and the secure vestibules. And then the third being all of the improvements at Davisville Middle. Important to note at this point, we are trying to get the stage 3 schematic design submissions finished by the 14th and the 21st of this month to send to the estimator. And the first one is the high school, because again, our schedule is to try and get that through the approvals so that we can maximize construction with that next summer. That's sort of the top priority. The 3 projects this will be the only time they will coincide relative to the total project budget. So this is sort of an important estimate to make sure that we're on track. Once we get past this milestone, Davisville and the elementary sort of tail off because we're trying to push the high school forward through the RIDE Stage 3 approval process fast enough in order to get out to bid. So they're going to be off kilter moving forward, which isn't to say we don't have the ability to make changes to the other 2 projects. We'll be just too far ahead on the high school to make any substantive changes at that time. And I'll walk you through that now. There's not much we can change with it anyway. It's a lot of nuts and bolts stuff. This image here is a 3D view of the existing high school, and the area in red is actually the area that we're re-roofing as part of this project. Couple of important notes because we haven't discussed this previously with the stage 2 submission. In order to re-roof this, there's a lot of mechanical equipment up there, duct work, gas piping, rooftop equipment. There's a lot of things that need to be lifted off the roof in order to actually replace the roof. And some of the important things to note is there's 3 inches of insulation on the roof now. What we'd like to do is strip it all back to deck and put 6 inches in order to actually exceed the new energy code in compliance with the CHIPS regulations. So that means that we're going to be adding about 3.5 inches to the height of that roof system that's there now, which means we need to raise all of those curbs up in order to accommodate it. And then all of the flashing where the roof meets the wall needs to also be raised up in order to keep our minimum distance for waterproofing and snow up there. We are proposing to replace it with a 0.80 mil thick TPO, fully welded adhered system, which will give the town a 30-year warranty, which I think is important in terms of trying to maximize the investment. If you go to the next slide. These are just some images of some of the equipment that's up there that needs to be removed and replaced, and the complexity with it. We're also replacing the cow wall skylights at the gymnasium because they've run the course of their life. Now's the time to do it. And then some of the other conditions, you can see where water gets stuck at the roof drains, and these will be the issues that we'll be addressing with this project. This is the sort of the first stab at the technical plan relative to trying to get a more accurate estimate number as well as the construction done for the project. And you can see all of that area in white is the area in red in that 3D image that's going to be done. If you go to the next slide. In conjunction with that, we've looked at sort of the typical details that need to be done relative to the curb flashing, the wall flashing, and how all that stuff needs to be raised up. But more importantly, the perimeter of the building also needs to be raised, and the existing metal panels and brick only go so high. So we're gonna need to bring that height up and then cover that up with new metal all around the perimeter. It's fairly involved. And I think the reason I'm telling you all this is so that you know, but to try and equate a dollar value with this scope of work, people go, well, how can that roof cost so much? This is why. And I think it's like 66 and change thousand square feet in area, in total.
Yeah, that's a big roof.
It's a big roof. And we're also doing that same sort of strategy at a much smaller scale on all of the elementaries. So there's a lot of money in roofs.
Sorry, can I ask questions along the way?
Yeah.
Sorry, new
Yeah,
guy.
right ahead.
Is the school department self-insured, or do we have an insurance?
So we're insured through the trust.
Okay, so we don't need to reach out to like FM Global to review roof plans. I know they're big into that.
Luckily, no.
Thankfully, thankfully, no.
Not
Is there, what's that?
It's not decam.
Yeah, I know, thank you. Is there any need for like improved fall protection? Is any of the equipment on the roof?
We are
Close to
adding
the-
guardrails in some locations at the high
Okay.
school for that reason.
Yeah.
There's a roof hatch like within 2.5 feet of the roof edge. We're gonna add a guardrail there.
Okay,
Most of the equipment, because this building was a little newer, actually doesn't have those issues.
right,
There's more of those on the elementary.
on the elementary schools, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more duck crossings on the elementaries that need to be done with new aluminum crossover ladders and things like that.
And then my last question for now. You said we're gonna exceed the energy code on the insulation thickness. Have we reached out to Rhode Island Energy to start a conversation on rebates and incentives?
There are no incentives.
Really?
Yes. We're not doing enough of an envelope improvement for it to be warranted in this case, at either the high school or the elementary schools. And the other important note is that none of the existing equipment at any of these buildings is being either improved or replaced as part of this work. We're gonna carry an allowance for bid purposes to take care of any unforeseen miscellaneous repairs that are required, but
Mhm,
beyond
yeah.
that, that would be the
But we
bigger,
are
that
still-
would be the bigger opportunity relative to rebates. It's
Yeah.
swapping out the equipment for higher efficiency.
Right, I saw I don't know if it's in all, we're looking at a VRF system for what, Davisville Middle School?
No, we can get to that in a minute. When we tried to reconcile the budget during the stage 2, before we submitted the addendum in September, we had sort of developed a master plan for Davisville, sort of a long-term approach of what it could be to try and get some level of parity between Weirtford and Davisville. As part of that, we sort of did a pie in the sky approach. We knew what the basic pieces were required for, based on what was done previously, but we were trying to get a price for everything. We did. We were well in excess of what the
Yep.
bond would support. So we sort of peeled back to the barest minimum at Davisville, and I'll take you through that in a moment. And as part of that, really the only mechanical improvements that are on any of the projects are gonna be relative to the media center renovations that we're doing at the elementaries and at Davisville. The administration area renovations that we're doing at Davisville, which I'll run you through in a minute. And some very few isolated areas as part of the base bid work. There's a significant ad alternate at Davisville, which I think everybody would love to do, and it's just gonna come down to whether or not the budget can support it. So at Davisville, again.
One question before you
Oh,
go off
yep.
the roof, just for like, so I know, do we look at other options that didn't involve increasing the thickness of the insulation? Is there any other option to be compliant with code, or was that the only way we could do it?
Interesting you should bring that up. There's an alternative approach you could take. We don't think it's in the district's long-term interest to do it. We can certainly discuss it further, but it would be essentially just a recover. So we would leave everything that's there now,
Yeah,
just peel the membrane back, see what the condition of the insulation is, put a cover board on it, and then re-roof it.
how old's the roof again?
The high school's about 25 years old.
Yeah.
The elementaries are around the same vintage,
Okay,
but
yeah,
you only end up with 3 inches of insulation up there.
yeah, I just wanted to ask, because I know the parapet and everything is a huge undertaking.
Yes, it is.
If it's unavoidable. so be it.
Chasing those decisions around the perimeter and all of the transitions is a lot of work.
Yeah, like the curbs. I just want to make sure we thought through all the options. I appreciate that.
We did, and I think, like I said, because we're not doing significant mechanical improvements, you're gonna get the biggest bang for your buck with adding that extra insulation on the roof, particularly at the high school with the area that's involved. Most of these buildings, just so, you guys are aware, have no insulation in the exterior walls. They don't have insulated windows for the most part. The high school's a little bit more modern, but it wasn't modern enough to have continuous insulation in the building. It's all bat in the metal studs. You kinda know what you got there.
So, yeah,
It's of the age. It's not we wouldn't do that today because we couldn't comply with the energy code.
so you have like a significant amount of masonry at that step up. Okay. Well,
We're gonna see,
no, I appreciate it. I just want to make sure.
yeah, I mean, as a fallback, that's absolutely positively still in the mix. It's a decision you would have to make.
Yeah, I agree that we don't want to reuse insulation from 25 years ago. It's just not, it doesn't make sense.
No, and we know there are active leaks in the buildings, so
It's all
we're
set.
really more concerned about finding out if there are any problems with the deck, that we have the opportunity to repair it when everything's ripped up
Yeah.
and deal with it.
My next question, if we're gonna look at the deck and find out that it's got issues, corrosion, all that fun stuff. So,
We're gonna try and build in some reasonable allowances again in the bid to cover that. It's anybody's best guess.
Yeah.
And I'm actually less concerned with the areas where we have metal deck, and I'm more concerned in the areas where we have wood deck and or tectum, which we have throughout most of the elementary
it's right in
school.
the elementary. Okay. Thanks, appreciate it.
You're welcome. So Davisville, back to the parity. I mentioned the media center, also new guidance suite. Main office, this building is actually getting a new sprinkler system as well to protect it, given its size. It also addresses some other issues. The mechanical systems, again, are relative to the renovated areas. And I'll show you in a plan in a moment. Limited electrical upgrades. There's gonna be some ADA improvements to get from the entry area and the parking areas in and out of the building. There's stoops and curbs all over the place now, which we'll take care of as part of this. And most importantly, giving this building sort of a new identity at the front, which we'll show you in a couple of slides. We're also renovating the restrooms in the building and doing some other ADA modifications inside for the classroom entry doors and whatnot.
The CM at risk includes the CIP stuff, or is that just
No.
Wickford Middle?
Just the middle.
So do we know, have we decided what the plan is, design, bid, build, or?
We've priced based on the high school roof being either a GC or a roof acting as prime
Yeah,
because of the scope of work. And the elementaries and Davisville would both be general contractor at the moment.
I would say, though, when we talked about DMS, we at least toyed with, would a CM approach be better because of the complexity, it's a multi-year project.
right.
So I would say the estimate assumed the GC was also bid.
Mm-hmm.
We did get a price to go
Comma.
see him.
I think it should be an ongoing conversation
Mhm.
because of, it's not gonna be a one, do it in 3 months kind of deal.
Right.
We're just completing in East Providence a multi-year renovation of a elementary school up there. And CM, we actually went out for GC, didn't get any bids.
Mm-hmm.
We went back out to the market, CM came in, it was the CM that was doing the middle school up there. I would say a lot of value add,
Mhm.
obviously that, you can argue or debate about price, premium or whatever. But I think it helped a lot there because of all the phasing that we had to do, so I think we're not saying we should continue to consider
Right,
it, but at least the estimate and the budget as it stands today assume that 160.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Excellent. So this plan sort of illustrates what, I'm gonna come over here, sorry. I can't. The red wicket is the area that's in the base bid. That's the new entry canopy, the new secure vestibule. We actually are gonna renovate the lobby and create security points to prevent people from getting into the rest of the school. We're gonna renovate the main office and the nurses' suite, most importantly. The main office is a combination of enhanced security relative to the vestibule as well as ADA, and the nurses' suite is mostly accessibility. And then that add alternate in the black wicket here is for what was previously pitched as a steam wing. We had 2 art rooms here. We've changed it in terms of our ongoing discussions with Parity to a STEM wing because we think there's more value in making these real science labs more on par with what is gonna be installed at Whitford. And that is all included as an alternate. And again, back to your comment about the mechanical, that would be enhanced new mechanical systems in that wing as well, if we can afford it,
But just for those areas.
just for those areas. We are trying to leverage some of the existing spaces that are there now, like the wood shop. It's fantastic. And then by relocating the robotics and the technology labs down in that wing, you get a better synergy with all of that program being right there.
Lighting controls or lighting upgrades? No, it's all been done, LEDs.
All of the buildings have local occupancy
Occupancy
sensors and
sensors.
LED lights.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you're not gonna see much benefit out of it. And then in the classroom wings, as I mentioned, the toilet room core will get renovated, and then we're gonna replace the operable partitions between the classrooms with real acoustic walls. Next slide. And then as part of this, we've been trying to look at what the new entrance might look like from the exterior, and we've got this new sort of welcoming entry canopy, all clad in metal panel, to try and draw the kids in. Sort of a new granite sign to give the school a little bit better identity. Kind of gets rid of that long, low slung 60s bus stop.
It was good in 1985.
Was it really?
No.
I think 85
It was
is
never.
generous.
Huh?
I think 85 is generous.
That's when I was there. That's when I was there.
We actually are gonna replace the steps and the pavement in front of the entrance, as well as the handicap ramp that goes around there because it's not compliant.
Is this in the base or is this an alternate?
This is in the base at the moment.
Yeah.
We only have so many options.
Fine.
And then, that's pretty much where the CIP stands. Any questions?
Yeah, and I think just to add to the kind of the schedule process, you know, what, and Andrew, you weren't here for any of that, but the focus now is trying to get the roof through the RIDE process, right? Because we've got multiple stages of review and approval that we have to go through.
Is that because it's the greatest need? Like, why the high school roof? Or we just want it?
We were trying to
A
get
little
something done
beta
this
test.
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two reasons. One, we were trying to get something done this summer,
This
and by
summer,
that I
yeah.
mean, I'm gonna say May to October, given the amount of work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
But more importantly, to try and maximize the bang for the buck. If we get work done this
Oh, yeah.
year, we won't have to pay as much escalation on that moving forward.
Understood.
When we looked at the projects, we identified that as a project that we could get in
Yeah.
now.
Fast track it a little bit. Yep. Makes sense.
And the idea then is that the design of the remaining DMS
Mhm.
and all the elementary schools is going through a little bit more methodical conclusion at next fall, and then you're starting your first round of biddings, that your first phases of work would be happening in the 27, that would be the first year of multiple phases in each of those schools. I think we're also trying to be very cognizant, and this is getting way down the road, but, you know, how much disruption can a community, can a school kind of embrace?
Yep.
You know, it's great to map it out on a piece of paper. It's another thing for faculty on the ground, families, kids, to kind of be enduring this
We
kind
don't
of.
wanna have too much
continuous-
work happening at too many schools.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
worried about, gonna be able to open the schools.
Construction fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the like, touching every school important, but it also means that you're gonna have a lot of activity going on over multiple years. So some community members are gonna be, it's gonna be a majority of the time that they're gonna be in that building. Unavoidable, especially when you're doing renovation work, but we're at least trying to be thoughtful about it and very transparent with the team about kind of how we see it could work. And especially the stuff that has to happen just within those 90 days or,
Yeah.
75 days of summer.
And we're gonna continue to discuss it as we move forward through the design phases, because we need to have a plan together collectively so that it can get implemented with as minimal disruption as possible.
These projects are harder when you have 5 months, never mind.
Yeah.
Right.
10 weeks. Great, any other questions for Ed?
Just a quick question, is the plan to do the elementary, schools all to the same GC? We bid that?
Yes.
All right,
The idea is we would do half the first summer and then the other half the second summer.
you'd have the same GC on all three, summer one, okay.
All five, actually.
All five, okay.
No, six.
6 is 3 and 3, right?
Yeah, and I think,
23.
there might be different ways that we think about slicing and dicing that up. Obviously, we wanna get efficiency, that if you buy a couple, you're gonna get hopefully
Yeah.
better buying power.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think we don't wanna miss on an opportunity where maybe if one's smaller, would that attract
Yeah,
a different tier?
there's benefits to each, I think,
Yeah.
you get the economies of scale, but then also we don't wanna stretch a contractor too
Right,
much that they can't meet 3 deadlines
Yeah.
that are all tight in the same summer.
right.
So, anyways, more discussion on this.
Yeah. We'll give you our thoughts on it, but I do think it's a collective discussion around what is the best way to kind of do this. Because, we can give you our opinion, doesn't mean that it's the only way to kind of
Value
approach
that.
it.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now we jump to the middle school.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start by going over where we are, a lot of the things that Sam touched on, and then Mark is going to, we have a few updates on the design, and we'll be reviewing that as well. So we can go into the next slide. So this is the slide, this is actually a slide that we showed last time when we were here on October 1st. And we've just built on it. It shows sort of the 3 buckets of activities that we've been focused on. As Sam mentioned, we've had several meetings with the town. We have had meetings with the code official as well as with fire. We had 2 meetings with them to review some questions that we had with code and also to make them familiar with the project. And get their input on things. One of the things that Matt Souza highlighted to us, he's the building code official, is that we do have a new code coming into play for Rhode Island starting on December 1st. Because this project has begun, its design process earlier, he said that we could submit a letter seeking relief from the new code. Now, we are planning to do that because he also explained to us that you don't have to act on it, but as long as he has that in the file, we'll have that choice. And so our team is looking at what are the differences between the new code and the existing code and the new code, and making a determination that will come to you and let you know what we think is best, and so that North Kingstown can then make that decision. But to allow us that flexibility, we're going to be we're going to be submitting that letter to the town. The other meeting that we did have, as Sam had discussed, was was with Ralph and with fire as well as police to go over the discussion of shelter. And as Sam has mentioned, what we're going to be doing is looking at how is the community service today with the Wickford Middle School, and understanding what that will take in the new school. One thing that we are going to do, though, is try to shift away from the nomenclature of shelter, because that has other implications to it, and we'll probably start to use some language such as center, because when you talk about a shelter, it has some of those other trigger points with that a more robust structure, for example, and things like that it puts it into a different category. So we do want to start to use the word center, something like a relief center, refuge center, or something along those lines. This slide is basically a laundry list of all the kinds of activities that that have been taking place. It includes the user group meetings. We've had, in some cases, more than one user group meeting, and we've had in some cases one, and we know that we're going to have a follow-up one. We, in fact, tomorrow have our media center user group meeting with DBVW, again going over that whole notion of parity between the two middle schools and making sure that we hit on both of those, that we compare and have them be very similar in nature. Let's see, the other piece I just is we mentioned this last time. We did have some comments from the Governor's Commission on Disabilities. These are some of the things that happen as part of this process. We've submitted our comments to them. They were all sort of expected comments. There's going to be continued tracking as we go forward into that stage 3 submission. All this becomes part of that package of information, and there will be some more back and forth with them. Security, that was also mentioned. That's going to be ongoing. We had a really great meeting with our security consultant. Those meetings and that information is going to be held a little bit closer to the chest. That's more of a confidential type information, and that continues to be developed. The other piece that I do want to mention, and I do want to thank Dave Flanagan, because for the last 2 weeks there's been a lot of subsurface investigation going on at the site. So that is both, it's actually very interesting, and actually we've talked about how there's some opportunities for the students to learn. The last 2 weeks started, well, the first of the last 2 weeks started with an archaeological investigation. I mean, that's just very, very interesting. So we had PAL is the consultant that came out, and they actually used hand shovels to dig holes. They dug, I think, a total of about 42 holes. They did find some evidence that this, in fact, was an area that did have tribal activity on it. However, because of, for a bunch of different reasons, they determined that it wasn't, they're not recommending a phase 2 archaeological study. So their recommendation to the state is that the phase 1 was sufficient. They will be developing a report. And we'll get that report, and we'll be able to, then that will be part of the documentation. One thing that I do also want to highlight is that as part of that process, the Narragansett Historical Tribe Organization was notified, and they did send representatives out, and I know that Kenny and Dave went and talked to them, and then they were told the following week was going to be the subsurface investigation that included geotechnical. And they did ask to monitor that.
Yeah, they came back for that one as well.
And they came out to that one as well. So you had the students of Whitford Middle School observing an archaeological dig, and then the following week, which was last week, there was geotechnical equipment. So they were looking, they were getting borings of the soil to understand how that soil is going to work to bear the structure of the building, as well as developments such as, even the roadways. They also were doing some investigation. They were taking samples of the soil, and that's part of the environmental. We're having a ESA phase 2 done, so they were collecting samples for that. And then finally, they were also doing test pits to look at the proposed site that we have for leaching fields. Now, just new information that we received yesterday is they did find that we will need to do some additional test pits, because the area that we were initially planning for the leaching fields, the soil isn't ideal for leaching. So we're working with the team to determine where that next location could be. So there will, while they have sort of concluded in this last week, I mean, I think that Dave might be able to report on, did they cap all the final?
They're finishing the capping.
They're finishing the capping.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
there was somebody out there today doing some, but I think there's 2, 30-inch PVC pipes still, or 3
have to
that
cut down.
yeah, they're up high, but they're gonna cap those. I
Okay.
spoke with Matt Alfred on Friday.
Okay, great, all right, well, thank you. So they're just about finished in the collection, just because of this leaching, investigation. There will be one more day, which we'll have to coordinate, once we figure out where that next best location is for the leaching fields. So that has been, both interesting, and also we're collecting that information. Now, what happens with all that, similar to the archaeological, is we will get reports. Those reports do take a little bit of, a month or so. In the meantime, what we're expecting PAR to do is to report back to us, so that, because next week is when we're submitting our package to the estimator, so as much information as we can get sooner rather than later. So they're gonna give us some information before the final report is done. And that, that takes us, so we'll just continue to build on this. It's, again, that list of activities that we are continuing to work for. The big piece, actually, if you go back one slide, I do wanna highlight. The other thing that we did, so we had these three, what I'm calling buckets or categories, last time, and we have built on them. The other thing that you might notice is we have this larger purple box around those, because our team right now, the design team, we're in what we call the QA/QC process. So we did an internal print of all our documents, and it's basically quality control, quality assurance, and we throw sort of this metaphorical net out to to look at all our things and capture where do we have, look at coordination between the disciplines, as well as, the program, and we check that against what we have designed. So that's a constant, back and forth, and it's really an important part of the process that we build in. We can go to the next slide. And I think now I'm going to pass the baton over to Mark, and he's gonna give us an update about the design.
Yeah. So this is the current site plan. I think it's probably familiar to everybody. Doesn't look all that different. A couple of things that have evolved, and we'll blow this up. The building footprint has shifted a little bit, and you can start to see there's sort of a little bit of an angle shift. It was more of a straight right angle. There's some things about that in terms of how it fits on the site. Also the design team is looking at trying to open up the entry a little bit more. Most people will be coming in from the south and didn't want the building entry to sort of be in the shadow. It also fits into the site a little bit better, since it's not a straight square of a site. One of the things I know, so I'll just take it through for people who haven't seen it, or just to remind everybody. The yellow is the bus circulation, so the buses have a separate circulation from passenger vehicles. Blue is the passenger vehicles, so students being dropped off by car would be dropped off or picked up at the front entry. Buses come around off of Tower Hill Road and drop off here. Everybody enters in at the same location. So that worked out well in terms of keeping those two circulations separate. It gives us a lot of queuing space. So the one thing I know that had come up, because if anyone recalls earlier conversations, this is kind of a pinch point here, just because, getting the building set off of Tower Hill, getting the fields coming in from the east, we get, and wanting to widen the road a little bit, right? We wanted to widen the road so that buses could queue up, right, and you could still have emergency vehicles get around those. So that drove us to shrink the baseball field by about 10 feet. So we started out with a 300-foot outfield. We're now, I think, about 290. So probably fine for middle school, maybe more dingers, but we felt like that was a reasonable compromise there.
Do we know if the Rhode Island Scholastic League has dimensional requirements? Because what you would hate to find out is that we've designed a field where we are not allowed to have home games on. So it'd be good to find out what the dimensional requirements are.
We'll double check.
Yeah, we'll check. We actually, that was something we were looking into.
Okay.
We'll get that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the proximity of that left field foul line that close to the street a concern? If not, I'm half kidding, but a well-hit foul ball will be.
To a windshield, let's say, or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah. I know that we have some netting here
Yeah.
because of neighbors, I'm not sure what the,
Yeah,
the need is there.
we have a fence there, and I believe the netting is, I will have to double check this, but as high as maybe 30 feet or so.
Okay.
So, because those are neighbors.
Right,
That's not the
but your
street,
question was,
Left
Yeah,
field.
left
sorry,
field, like,
was
I can see
here,
right
Oh, the
through.
left
along,
field. Oh,
along the
sorry.
left field,
Oh.
sorry. it's
I
not-
probably should care more about the neighbors too.
Yeah,
The point being, we know, we do have protection at the neighbors.
Yes, yeah.
We should look here
Yeah, we can
and,
look, yeah.
Yeah,
see if that's.
small
necessary.
potatoes, but I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Okay, next slide. So this is a new image, including, I don't think for the folks who are on the Thursday call, not new to the design, but a new rendering that shows how we're looking at. A lot of our effort has gone into compacting the building, obviously looking to continue to look for what we're are savings in order to, we can't get to the alternates unless we continue to find savings. So that's a constant, I'll get into that on the plans. But looking at ways of using materials to create some interest, to create some variety in the building. So what you're seeing here is a view, kind of a little bit of an aerial view from Tower Hill. That drop-off area, you see the buses, the fields in the distance. That's the gym, and this is the 3-story classroom bar.
Mark, can you talk, I know right now you're trying to conceptualize and get material information in for the schematic estimate. Can you at least speak to kind of what the thought is on these materials on the exterior?
Sure,
That would be
absolutely.
important as we go through the estimating and then
and
go back to the.
Tina, you can correct me if I'm,
Yeah.
so obviously we have brick, 2 different colors of brick to try to create a little bit more of that idea of a historical base to the building, which is consistent around the whole building, and then more of a traditional terracotta kind of colored brick at the 2nd and 3rd stories. And then what we're looking for, are we looking at a cementitious
Yeah.
panel? Yeah, so it's a rain screen panel. We use this a lot in schools. It's very comparable in cost to the brick, but allows us to give us a little bit more variety and bring in a little bit of color. There's a lot of options there. We'll get into that. I'm sure there'll be a time when we're bringing in bricks
Yeah.
and samples and all sorts of
Yeah.
things for everybody to take a look at, including
Metal.
windows and stuff. Susan?
Yeah, it could also be metal. We're looking at we are going to have these as alternates when we get the estimate, so that we have that kind of menu of
Yeah,
selection.
Great.
Right, yeah. So brick is tried and true. It's, obviously, there's a great material, but we're also looking at some others that are gonna be at the right price point for us. I mean, the nice thing about brick is we can get a lot of contractors to do it. So, okay. So this is the floor plan, as Tina mentioned. There's been many, many meetings. There are ongoing meetings with user groups. So as we go through this, Tina and Lauren are meeting with staff, meeting with department heads, going through, making sure all these spaces align with their expectations. Many of those are done with Ed, so that we're continue to look at parity. But what you see, so the gymnasium, the locker rooms, the music programs are in this yellow box, along with our mechanical and service spaces in gray. This is the main lobby, which that angle kind of opens up that space. And this is the dining with a platform, so that acts as a kind of cafetorium, if you will, a performance space as well. And then the kitchen to the north, so we're able to serve and deliver to the kitchen directly from the ring road around the campus. Then the media center, which sort of has its own form, pops out a little bit. And the arts are what's on the ground floor, along with administrative and nurse services.
Do the utilities come in from the south? Is that why the mechanical room's there, or no? Not necessarily.
There will be some, actually, that's so funny, because that is one of our coordination subjects for tomorrow's meeting. But a lot of them will be, the transformer, which isn't shown right here, if we go to the site plan again, you'll see that the transformer is right to the south of the
Mhm.
mechanical room. And so the electrical will be coming in there. And then
From Phillips or from Tower Hill?
from Phillips,
Mhm.
yeah. And the gas line is actually coming in from Tower Hill near the loop. It's doing that today.
Mhm.
Now, you know, and that goes into what are all the different alternatives that we're looking at in terms of how the mechanical systems are, and that's if we use a fired, gas-fired boiler
Yep.
system, so, yes, so those, so they're not all coming in at the same location, but
Gotcha.
electrical is
Could
definitely the case.
Like, would there be,
Yeah.
you know, again, sorry to be the new guy, but would there be savings to come in off of, if you could come off of Tower Hill? I mean, the run would be a lot shorter to like the west,
Electrical,
or water, or,
we're, that is all being
Okay.
considered, but it is, they're not all, I think,
they're not all on Tower Hill.
they're not
I
on,
imagine.
yeah, that's, but it is a discussion for
Mhm.
tomorrow, and that will certainly be optimized as,
The power currently comes from Phillips, so you've
Oh,
got
it
those,
does,
you've got
yeah.
the, see the
Yeah.
residences to
Yep.
to the right,
Yep.
right there.
Mhm.
So our power seems to come,
yeah.
it comes
Through
up,
there.
up
I
the
think it's
little
even
road and then hard right, and then
Is
it
it
enters next to the, current gymnasium, which is where
Yeah,
the
I think-
home, the home plate is of the new baseball
Yeah,
field
so
roughly.
keep in mind,
That's the way it kinda
existing
comes in now.
school
Yeah,
is here.
Is there, yeah.
Yep,
So
that's
what
right,
these
okay,
are-
right,
So
right.
makes
Yeah.
sense that it would, currently, that makes more sense, right? But I think that's
Mhm.
something.
And I
that-
think
Yeah.
water comes off of
And the
Phillips
water
as
comes
well.
there,
Yeah.
and actually there is, in fact, maybe a branch off the water that comes onto the property serving a neighbor,
Mhm.
that, which is another thing that we're looking into.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Things
So
you
those
find
are
out.
things that are,
Yeah.
there's always
Just be less utility.
another chapter to go.
Yeah, you bet. You want the second floor?
Yeah, please, thank you. So ground floor, the more or less it goes by grade level, so there's sort of team approach of sixth grade on the second floor, along with some of the support spaces. These are just indicating the spaces that are double height, obviously, the gym, the music rooms pop up a little bit, that benefits acoustically for the music rooms, the cafeteria and stage, as well as the lobby. So the lobby has a little bit of a double height connected space, which is nice. And then up on the top, finally on the third floor is the seventh and eighth graders are on the top floor. So building continues to look for efficiencies. I know the team spends a lot of time. We do need to have 3 stairs, if anyone's wondering, just as an occupancy thing, but always looking to, get, if we can get the building as efficient as possible, we can spend our money on the things that everybody wants.
Have you or we analyzed the cost differential between sewering and not sewering? Between,
Well, so that is a, topic that continues to come up.
I know.
I think the sewer was so far away and it would require pumps,
yes,
that has been, they kind of have said, that's just cost prohibitive.
but I guess the question is, have we determined what the cost differential is? So,
The actual
so in other
cost.
words, what is the cost to
Right.
appropriately sewer Wickford Middle School versus the septic and what
Septic.
you're trying to do now? What is the differential? And because, it may be worth pursuing potential funding opportunities that we were just talking about, but outside of the town to, again, it's worth at least
Yeah.
pursuing, but I'd have to know what the differential is.
Yep.
So, and I don't know the numbers, so I have no idea, but let's say it's 2 million to provide a sewer and it's 1.5 to do the septic.
Yeah,
So it doesn't make sense to do the sewer.
yep. We will,
But rather than me go to someone and say it costs 2 million to do the sewer, really the number I'm looking for is the 500,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the delta between
Exactly.
on-site versus.
Yeah.
So it'd be
connected.
good if you had a cost estimate for me to know that. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about that, but I
yeah,
can at least look into it.
okay.
I mean, I think PAR could probably give us an order of magnitude on the run from, is it Main to, I think the intersections up
Yeah.
at Main and Tower
Main and
Hill,
Tower,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
You may wanna go, if Phillips may be an
Yeah,
option
they
too
also-
from,
Phillips, yeah, just,
Big-
oh, that's uphill.
yeah, so I think Phillips was the other one.
Yeah.
mhm.
So it's like right around
But
where you
there
turn into
was-
Wilson Park.
Yeah, there was concern
Yeah.
about, just cause that thing goes to a pump, I think as well,
Yes.
or it all goes
It
to a
does.
It's an
pump.
elevation
does.
difference.
Yeah, there's an elevation issue there.
Yeah.
Where Tower Hill's a street
Yeah.
shop.
We can definitely, we'll look
It'd be
into
good to
that,
know.
no matter what, well,
If there's something
yeah.
I can help with there,
It's-
it'd be good to know.
Okay, that would be.
And we
great.
have, and I think we'll get an even more refined number in this next round
Mhm.
of the full schematic estimate. So we'll get a good kind of package number on what the on-site wastewater treatment system is as a standalone. And then if we could get PAR to kind of give us probably a higher level order of magnitude on, okay, it's so many linear feet, connection, road disruption, all that kind of stuff, what would they think that number would be? To kind of get that comparison and find out what that delta is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In factor is also future costs, you know, for maintenance and
Mhm.
et cetera for the
Yeah.
leach field, which for sewer is negligible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's, I know getting it to where it is today was a big move by the community, so I don't know whether there's ever been any discussion about further expansion, but
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I don't know whether there's been any discussion around further expansion of the line since the work.
No, probably not. So right now, the way we're doing it is that any expansion of the lines is paid for by the users.
By the
So for example, we stopped at roughly the three-way intersection of Brown, Boston Neck, and Phillips.
Yeah.
But when Wickford L came on board, Wickford Elementary Residential Project came on board, you know, we told them that they have to pay
Yep.
for the extension there, they have to pay, so they pay for all the infrastructure. So any increases, now by doing that, we tied in 3 or 4 users, so we benefit from that, but we're very clear that, you know, Wickford Elementary Residential Project had to pay for that, the cost of that entire extension. And so that's how we're treating, any extensions to the sewer project. Like with the exception of Post Road North, there's a whole other issue, but
Yeah.
Post Road South, they have to pay for the extensions. So if Dave's ever wanted to hook up, you could benefit from that, because Dave would have to pay for it. We would benefit from it, but regretfully, that's not the
That'd be
case,
great if
so.
Dave's-
Maybe David will just do it, and then we'll just,
There we go.
Just add it.
That'd be perfect.
just sneak it in there.
That's right.
Where is the leach field planned for on the plan?
Go back to the site
Yeah,
plan.
so kind of in that
Yeah, I know you're in this-
southwest corner.
So this is-
I think it was,
Uh,
they were looking here, but I think we're looking back at
Yeah.
where the existing. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry to jump in. So the existing is here, and that's where the stormwater management system is now planned, and that's surface, which, as you know, there's a lot of I mean, it's, you know, less expensive. Also, we have found on projects that that's also a learning opportunity for our
Yeah,
next
definitely.
generation to understand about stormwater. So that was there. The proposed leaching field was, planned for here.
Okay.
They did find, though, that the soils aren't adequate appropriately for that. So now, and that's one of the things that just came out of the test pits that so we're at this, we are now looking at how that will work, you know, where could they go? Because then once we determine that possible next location, they'll have to come out and do test pits, because when they do those test pits, DEM actually has to come out and witness it. So and then there was we also had some notion of potentially having a smaller one over here for the kitchen, but this was the main location. So that will no longer, be the main location. We have to find an alternative.
Great, any other comments from Perkins Eastman?
No other comments, any questions?
Any other questions for Perkins Eastman?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Superintendent, I'm happy to jump into number 6, but I don't want to get ahead of your agenda.
No, we can go right into that to talk about commissioning agent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So paper copy in front of you is a single-page summary of the process, which should have been right on the back of your, of the OPM update. And then we do have floating around, a version of that with the full Stephen Turner proposal attached to it, and you can we didn't want to print up 10 of those and waste a lot of paper. So just as a kind of a reminder and a summary, so we had gone out for commissioning agent a couple months ago. That included both the CIP work and the Wickford Middle School work. I would say we got back a very mixed bag of responses, especially on pricing and everything else. So we decided that we were gonna go out just for Wickford Middle School, so that we could isolate down to just those activities, and then maybe the opportunity to do a change order after the fact once we get into the CIP. It was also because that CIP scope continued to kind of meander up until we submitted for the stage 2 demo. So, we went back out on the 10th, we received submissions on the 27th. I would say, I think we had almost the same responses. I think one firm did not come back the second round, but we relatively had a consistent response back from the same folks in the marketplace. For those of you that buy commissioning agent services, some of these names will look very familiar. So we had two district team members that did their review based on the criteria that was in there, which was quals, relevant experience, their kind of sampling of how they do their work, and then their capacity. So out of that criteria analysis, Stephen Turner, as you can see here, received the highest scores, with BR plus A coming in just behind them, and then AEI, then Solis and O'Brien, and then NV5 Consultants. And then if you look down below, you'll see kind of the breakdown of those services that they're providing. We did ask for them to separate out the envelope commissioning, which again, for folks that are doing this in the marketplace, has become much more important. Building commissioning is really focused, especially on the mechanical equipment and how that equipment is working. Envelope, especially from our perspective, is just as important. Because you want to make sure that you're having that team member participate not only in the design, but then in the testing and then the implementation of how that envelope gets delivered in the field. So you'll see that breakout there. So with the score for Stephen Turner, we then extracted out their pricing. So you'll see that breakout, which is how we asked for it in the request, which is basically the mechanical, electrical, plumbing commissioning is that 154. The building envelope commissioning is that 83.7. And then we did ask for the enhanced commissioning requirement that is part of the NE CHIPS requirements in their checklist, and that's the additional 20,000, and that gets us to a total of 257.7. From a fee standpoint, Stephen Turner was actually the highest, and we did not do we did it really on quals and then including the fee, so that we could kind of have that understanding across the marketplace. I think based on the criteria, and again, we didn't score, we just had the team score. Stephen Turner was the top score getter, or the top scorer. What we'd like to do, or what our recommendation is, that we recommend them for approval. That has to go before the school committee, and then we would reserve the right to go back and kind of continue to evaluate and negotiate their fee. While the envelope we think is very important, we also know that we've had the opportunity to kind of compress on the envelope commissioning. There's usually a lot of meetings, there's usually a lot of site visits, and not that we want to diminish the importance of those, but we also want to kind of get those in a bucket that's a little bit more manageable. So we're showing the total 257.7 here, but we'd like to then go back and sit with the recommended vendor and see how we can kind of get this number as tight as possible. So open it up for questions. Kenny, I don't know if you want to weigh in on your evaluation process or any of that.
I mean, we went through the 5 bids, looking at it, really based off looking at, just from reading through what we received, their experience working with other districts, working on building projects like what we have, looking at their recommendations, and then also Simple's as well. If anybody has any questions regarding this?
Yeah,
or-
I did see the RFP post, so I read into it a little bit, but could you remind me, like, what do we base the scope on? 'Cause we don't know how many pieces of equipment we're gonna have yet. What parameters did we give them to hold their number?
Yeah, so we gave them the stage 2 submission.
Okay,
So they certainly had, and again, easier around the middle school, because those plans were, I would say that they were more developed. So that at least had kind of the MEP narratives in it, and all that information had the floor plans. So I think that allowed for a higher level of detail and accuracy that they could provide on that pricing. Perfect, no, because you're not at 100% docs, but we actually need the commissioning
Yeah,
agent
it's-
for the schematic
right.
step. So it's that kind of chicken and egg, we're trying to like make sure that we gave them adequate information, and the information that we provided in the first round was even, you know, it was more updated when we did that second round. So I think we benefited from the market seeing those stage 2 addenda plans, and they were able to see that entire package that was submitted.
What was the percentage difference? You said Stephen Turner was the highest. What are you
Yep.
talking?
So, I don't have percentage, but Stephen Turner was 237 base with the additional 20,000 for commissioning. BR plus A was 235. AEI was 164.8, so they were considerably lower. And again, we didn't delve into, you know, why that spread was there. And, you know, our goal is hopefully to give you the best vendor for the process, with that ability at least to go back and see how we can compress that number down. And then NB5 was 195 and Salis O'Brien was 211.
All right, I'd like
So-
to make a motion to accept the recommendation of Stephen Turner.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Oh.
Robert Case.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So
Is that everybody? Any
Yeah.
nays?
There's everyone. So next step, have conversation with
Yep.
them, let them know that it'll go to school committee, but if we can get the cost down prior, we'll
Yeah.
present it that way to the
Yep.
school committee.
And your next meeting is?
No.
Um,
4th plus 14, 18. Yeah. But do you think that, is that too short of a time frame for you?
I don't
It's
know,
less
if
than
we'll-
2
I don't
weeks.
know if we'll have a feedback on that, and that's why we wanted to get the approval for the not to exceed number.
Okay,
And then if we have the ability to go back and get it lower, then
okay.
we get it lower.
So you're accepting
The recommendation,
of Steve Turner to be moved forward for this,
Yeah.
to be the commissioning agent?
yes.
And recommendation will go to the school committee for their approval.
I just wanna make sure I get.
That's it for us.
Motion
to
adjourn?
Oh, actually, just real quick, do you wanna just talk about when the next meeting is, or just
Oh, yeah.
remind everybody when the next meeting is? Which is.
Don't we also have some invoices?
You don't have that on the agenda.
It's not on the
Oh,
agenda.
No,
sorry.
actually, no, it is. It's not printed on this agenda, but it is what was posted,
Oh, okay,
as we did. Thank you.
thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
In the meantime, I'll look up the next meeting would be, I was gonna say December, cause December's second.
So my
Yes.
schedule says the 3rd,
Yep, it is December third.
that's my schedule.
Yeah, it's an off-school committee week, so I was thinking, well, we don't have a school
That's
committee
at
meeting,
6
but,
o'clock?
yeah, and it'll be here,
You
but,
don't get off anything.
yeah, I know, well, I have your district meeting, so that's why I was confused. So I guess while you're doing that.
I'm checking
I-
just to make sure, because I did put that forward, but it knows it's not what was printed here, but I wanna make sure it's.
No, you do that, and then I'll just say it out loud. Our next meeting here, December 3rd, 6 p.m. Central Admin Office.
Was there any thought of moving it back to 4:30 at all?
We actually moved it to 6 so that people who work can be here. So,
Okay.
you know, just
Thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, obviously we're open for discussion on that, but I think that 6 o'clock was
It
better
was
for
discussed
most
back
of
in
us.
June, that's the last, when it was discussed in June.
Yeah, and I don't know if earlier works for the committee and for our partners or not, but
Maybe we can send an email out
we can see
and-
if that does. I mean,
and
I don't
just
know
send
if
an email out and just
we can-
Works
ask
for me.
everybody, poll everybody.
Yeah. Works for me.
Okay.
That's better for us, yeah.
Oh, I would think the
It's-
opposite.
it's-
I just,
it's- that's just-
in my head, I always think a work day, but I know.
No, no,
This
it's
is
good.
working, I know, I forgot. I forgot.
Actually,
We will defer to the.
But these meetings are so efficient.
I'll be able to serial from doing that.
For internet.
You're getting more efficient.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They are. So getting
We
the
all-
hang of
yeah, we
it.
all do. We all do. It's all life tonight.
Yeah, I prefer 4:30 too.
It's like, don't ask me, I'm selfish, aren't I?
No, we'll take any extra.
We can't, it didn't get filed, the Secretary of State with it on it. So, we have to wait for the next meeting. Sorry.
Put it on the agenda next meeting. Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, thanks, everybody. Wendy, did you get that?
Robert Keys.
And I'm sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
It goes so fast.
It does,
Yeah,
and my hands just don't go that fast.
I know.
What was that?
we don't write this for.
No,
Yeah.
but what you sent me had it on it, and that's what.
Well, good, so fun. Good, that's good.
And usually depending on.